I'm Hailey.
And I'm Jessi.
And you're listening to Personality Hire.
The podcast where today we are absolutely thrilled, if you can't tell, to have an extra special guest in studio with us today. She is an actor, she is a mom, and she is honestly just an all-around good time. It's Miss It's Miss Kathryn Kelly.
Hey guys.
Hi, Kathryn.
Hi.
How are you?
Howdy.
So good. Thanks for having me.
We're feeling excited that you're here. We're feeling like you are honestly an ultimate personality hire.
Oh, yeah.
And to start off with that, we're curious to know, the people want to know what in your textbook is the definition of a personality hire?
I really had to think about this, by the way. I was like, what does that even mean? But I mean, for me, I think, especially in film, but like, I mean, even when I'm hiring people, like, I prefer to be around people that I like. And so if you're not likable, but you're like super qualified for the job, I'm not gonna hire you.
Yeah,
you know, so
it's kind of like where when you look and you imagine somebody's resume, if you have two resumes in front of you, somebody who's got like all these accolades and achievements, but they're an L7 weenie, like absolutely not. Like you're gonna go with the person that maybe like they didn't graduate top of the class, but they're extra fun.
I'm so glad you're here.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
like,
okay.
Genuinely.
Well, we're all in agreement. That's what we think too. Yeah.
And we always tell people when they ask about this, we always say that it doesn't mean that you're only a hire because of your personality, but it means
that feels like personality, like,
but you're
slut.
Sparkly.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, but should
like
you
not just for that, but like also for that.
Yeah.
But it's an important thing to remember about me. Right?
Yeah.
Like if I were a sleut,
Right.
not just who I am, but it's remember that about me a little bit. Yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
a fact.
I think too, Kat, what we definitely want to do is at the very top here, we want to give all of our listeners, if you guys are not familiar with Kat and all of her incredible work, we would like to give them off the top just a little bit of like a little something about who you are and what you're currently working on and what they might have seen you in the past. So, I mean, I can start. I know you've done things at Nashville.
Yes.
I know you've done all different sorts of roles leading up to the role that you're currently on, but right now you're on
Yellowstone.
She's on freaking Yellowstone. And like tell us
the final season is about to premiere. So this is a big deal.
Yes.
I think it's pretty crazy. Do you not think it's crazy? You've been on the show for years.
Yeah, I've been on the show since 2020. So like 4 years of a contract, which is
that's like
bonkers.
High school.
Yeah.
That's like college.
No, for real.
For some of us.
And yeah, my contract ended August 5th. So like not long ago.
No.
And it was crazy too, like coming out of that. I really didn't anticipate beforehand. Like I didn't want to like pre-mourn it because I wanted to enjoy it and I wanted to be present with it, you know? But like the day after, I literally woke up and was like, oh.
Yeah.
I don't have a job.
I just was like, oh, whoa, this is so, like I haven't had this feeling in a really long time. And I just like napped and cried and then pulled myself together that night and went and played pool with my friends in Montana. But like, you know, it was like, oh, it like all hit. But I'm glad that I did it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's smart of you. You don't want to miss out on those moments just because you're already preemptively sad.
Missing them.
Yes, missing them.
While you have them.
And also, like, this is, I think, a cool thing about where you're at in your career is that you know what it's like to be on a set for one day. You also know what it's like to be on a set for months.
Yeah.
So you understand that this, like, post-show blues, like, they always talk about that. It's a thing for sure. But you know that there's going to be another show.
Right. Well, like, my whole idea as well, like, I needed to feel sad about it. Like, I needed to move through that for sure. And then it was like, okay, I can either be nervous and scared about being in this new unknown and like look at it as a lack and like be scared about it, or I can be like, whoa, like we don't know what's around the corner now. Like this is really exciting. And I think that's a lot more like, that's a more enjoyable place to be, but also like energetically, like no one wants to be around like, oh, please, can I have it?
Yeah.
The desperation is icky. No. It's not very personality.
So it's more just,
I think one of the coolest things about the experience that you just had that a lot of people probably won't get the opportunity to have is you got kind of like this anthology of like your work to look back on and how much you've actually grown. Like you can literally look, you can press play and like quite literally see your growth, not only as an actor, but also probably like through looking at that, you see your personal growth in your personal life. You can probably see like milestones that have happened like on and off the set during that time.
Like I look back and I'm like, I know exactly how I felt that day. I knew exactly what I was going through personally. Like relationship wise, life wise, family wise, whatever. You know, that stuff exists too. So it's almost like this little snapshot.
Of your life.
It's like absolutely. That's so crazy to think about.
It's wild because 4 years, like a lot has happened.
A lot has happened.
It's also wild too because although you just said like the contracts ended, like this is coming to a close. The season hasn't even aired yet.
No. So like now we have the excitement of like press and like going to New York next week for the premiere. So that's really exciting. So but that's kind of the final like hoorah with everyone.
There will be more. I know you guys are going to have family reunions in Montana and go horseback riding. And just like live your Western
Well,
truth.
Getting to be in Montana and like Texas was so wild. It was such an immersive experience. And it wasn't like we're going to a studio in LA. Like we were living in Montana. Like I'm like, oh yeah, my place. Yeah, you turn off the highway, turn right by the alpaca farm, left by the bison. And then people are like, oh yeah, I know right where that is. Like that was my real life.
You were like living for some of the time with your castmates as well. And just people involved in the show, which I think is like, again, it's like summer camp or family.
Oh yeah. No, for sure. Like we would wrap up and like some of my friends that are in the crew and stuff, we'd be like, all right, let's go play pool at the saloon. And like that's what we would do. There was 2 saloons. That was it.
So you had 2 to pick from.
And I think too, if you're not familiar with Yellowstone, so let's talk a little bit about your character because I think that your character is an ultimate personality hire, especially because I know that she can fist fight.
Oh yeah,
and like the fact that I know, and I'm not going to tell you too much because you need to watch the show, obviously, if you haven't. But like she can like really go for it, and so that speaks to me. So can you give us a little bit about your character? She's a vet tech. Is that like
vet tech? So I was working. I don't ride a horse on the show. I do ride in real life since starting the show, but I'm around animals. Like I actually gave like a horse an ultrasound at one point. Like that was real, and I'm with other vet techs. Like
that's really cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Okay, we're gonna get into all this stuff about you being a personality hire, about your character, whose name is Emily. But I want to let's just time out. Just gonna call time out. So this horse was an actual pregnant horse, or were you like actually?
No, this was the baby, and then the mama was right next to her because they can't be too far apart at that age, or they'll freak out. But then also they kind of had to freak out at certain points, so they'd kind of push the mama a little bit further because then she would naturally, be a little more,
squirmy.
Yeah, and it was so funny too because they'd be like, "All right, if things go wrong, you hop this." I'm like,
"LOL,"
like, what?
Smiley face. Where's my stunt double? Just kidding.
You're like, and we're in like a pen, like I'm neck, like right here. In a pen.
You're like also like what's gonna go wrong? You're like,
no,
what do
you know what's gonna go wrong. You're like, you don't want to be in that back end.
Yeah, the horse
one.
is gonna get you. Like it's hooves.
I'm gonna have a broken nose.
There's
No,
this is the moneymaker. So
right. Heaven forbid. It was actually dangerous. It was very immersive.
Right. So
very immersive.
You're kind of like, I have a
I've got a new skill set.
Right. I was gonna be like, I have like a PhD in all of my veterinarian science now.
Right. No, it's nuts.
So okay, back to what I was originally wanting to know is I want to know about. Well, no, I just want to know because your character is so cool. Like it's a very cool character, and I find you to be really cool. So I see like the alignment there and like your temperament. You know what I mean? Like you're so cool. So I want to just know, just having played her now, like what are the personality hire qualities of Emily? Like having gone through this whole experience with her.
I feel like she comes on to Jimmy first. She's very bold, which I love.
You're
and
very
like,
bold.
Thank you. Thank you.
I
try to
like that is like so you.
Cool. Thank you. I don't think I've ever come on to a guy that strong.
No, maybe not like
off the bat.
Have you? But when you think back on your relationship, now like got me thinking. I'm like, when just in your personal life, are you the person that makes the first move?
No.
Okay.
You're just cheeky,
so.
Which I don't think is.
I'll give it back.
Yeah, you're just cheeky, which
I'll
is
give
bold.
it back like she does as well. For sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You let them come to you, but then you.
Get a little bite.
Yeah.
We can. Yeah.
Right.
Cheeky.
Okay. So number one, she's bold.
Yes.
Okay. I like that, and that is definitely personality hire-esque for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Jessi's a bold one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if I've ever come on to a dude.
No, but you're funny. So like it's like I mean,
and very straightforward.
Jessi's
you were like
married.
such a straight shooter.
Yes, which is
like if you my gosh, if you think something like something's wrong, you're like, no, that's not gonna work.
No, some
of
the things she says, she has so many one-liners that just come out of her mouth.
Also, I sometimes ask questions that I don't want to know the answers about myself to. I'm like,
you're like, ask this question, but don't turn it around.
I'm like, I asked that about you. You asked that about me.
Look behind the curtain.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, she also is a fighter, so let's talk about that.
So that was my first day on set.
That's crazy.
No, I didn't know that either.
Taylor was like, I just want to like throw you in.
Taylor Sheridan.
I was like, yes, and I was like, all right, cool. And I walk on, and I walk into the bunkhouse, and at this point, like, the people on this show that have been here since season 1, they've been working on this show for 7 years now. So I've been here for 4 years, but they were already there for 3 years when I got there. So like everyone in there is very established, and this is a crowded bunkhouse of, you know, all these people, and I'm like, hello, yoo-hoo, it's me. Howdy, y'all. And I walked in, and like, you know, like you've been on a set, like you kind of know when things are about to start happening, film-wise, and I was like looking around like, feels like we're about to roll, and I don't know what I'm doing yet. Like
no one told you.
No, we hadn't choreographed it at all. And I was like, really quick, I'm not really sure what's going on right now, but like, but to be clear, it says here that this is a fight scene, and I don't know what I'm doing yet.
You're like, I've never thrown a punch.
Really quick, how is this supposed to go? Because I feel like safety-wise, we should. And they're like, oh yeah, and they just threw me right in, and they're like, okay, this is what we're doing. We ran through it, I don't know, like not that many times. I feel like
that's
three or
awesome,
4 times.
Like,
yeah,
not
and
to have to think,
how
overthink
his stuff
it.
Like works.
Yeah.
Like you just kind of jump in, and it was choreographed, of course, for safety. And I had an amazing stunt woman. But I did all of it on my own as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
she
what a
jumped
good
in on parts.
experience.
Yeah, I definitely hit my head pretty hard at one point.
Oh no.
And afterwards at lunch, I was like, I mean,
do you have
I don't feel
ibuprofen?
Great. Yeah, I was like, I was like, I need to ask for ibuprofen, but like, I don't want to alarm anyone.
Right.
Just, you know.
You're like, but I do feel concussed.
Right, I feel mildly concussed.
Right, I
do.
Yeah, I did slam my head on the table, but the camera's like right here, and I'm being thrown
ultrasound.
back. So like, how am I supposed to like? I just stop my head from going. Like, no. So you just do it. But it was so much fun. That was my first like big fight scene I've ever done, and I was like, oh, I really liked that. Like, I think maybe it's because it's so different from me, and it's so physical that it was like just so involved. It was exhilarating. Yeah. I was like, get me in some Marvel next.
Well, yeah,
get
like
me in some more fight scenes.
Anytime I've ever gotten to play like something that's like mean or like spicy like that, that's the most fun you ever have, because you are like, you're putting on a whole persona.
Oh, fully,
and then you get to live in it for a second. But that's not who you really are, but it's fun to act like
and also I didn't know if I was gonna like, I don't know, like I'm kind of like a little like lanky and very like feminine, I feel like. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna throw this punch and I'm gonna look like you know, like I don't know, like I haven't done this, you know?
I'm like, and if you're not watching on YouTube, Kat literally just did a little limp arm, like kind of like a kitty cat thing.
A half-closed fist.
I'm gonna get you.
Stay away.
Stop.
Nikki.
But no, it looked good.
It did look great.
Yeah.
It was excellent.
Yeah.
The other thing too
good.
about your character, which is I think I see some similarities, but one area where I see many differences is just the wardrobe. And that's not really a slight on Emily, but I would like
she
to
lives
say
in Montana, okay?
That's no, she lives in Texas.
Yeah.
So
no,
how
it's
is
like Wranglers every day?
How is that? Like, how were you feeling? I mean, also there was a lot of like little baseball cap moments, and like, how was that for you?
That wasn't my favorite part.
Okay,
she didn't get to. She didn't have to keep any of the
wardrobe. I'm friends with a lot of the costume department,
but it's real.
Like no,
they did a good job. They kept it grounded.
Like I feel like some of the other female characters get these like beautiful, really cool like costume situations, and I'm like, and I'm wearing the same shit. Here's my belt buckle, and here's my whatever.
My belt buckle.
Yeah, I did realize I was putting my belt on
backwards.
Backwards, because I'm left-handed, and so they had helped me before, and then like I realized continuity.
You're like, don't look too
sorry.
hard.
I don't think it was caught, but
So don't look for that.
Left-handed, I go through the left side to the right side, and I think you're supposed to go right. Or wait, no, sorry, left to right, but I go right to left.
Yeah, let's say I go left to right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You know
amazing.
What? But yeah, it's like button downs, and we make them. Costume department makes them snaps, which is nice. Yeah. They're not all buttons. They change those out, so they're all snaps, which is also good for the sexy scenes.
Yep.
That's why that's there too.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was me ripping off.
And the
my
pants
shirt.
are like pretty low for me. I'm like, not great.
Oh, not great for the sitting scenes.
No,
but
and then you're like tucked
girl.
in. Yeah, and then like every time. This is probably TMI.
No, it's not.
Every time I have to use the restroom, it's just like so involved.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my gosh.
Of course you have your mic, but it's like the pants, the buckle, the tank top tucked in, and then the shirt that buttons down and tucks back into the hole.
That's my least favorite part about. I don't know. I wouldn't say acting.
Give me a dress. Give me a skirt.
But it's like having all the stuff like tied up to you in the mic, and knowing that you're gonna have to like to go pee, like you're gonna have to take all that off.
What other like ranchy cowgirl bullshit, like in a good way, stuff did you learn on set where you're like, I'm gonna take this with me forever? Like this is a part of who I am now. Like the ultrasound thing, that's ranking pretty high for me.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
The fight, ranking pretty high for me.
I can do that.
I can throw a punch.
I bet you like kind of have a better understanding of like how a ranch actually works and like what it means to have livestock and things like that.
I definitely have like such a better understanding and appreciation for all of it. I mean, like when we were in Texas on the 4-6's ranch, we're on the actual 4-6's ranch in this like old mansion home that now the Sheridans own. But at the time when we were first filming there in 2020, the matriarch, the woman who owned it, had just passed a month before.
Wow. Was it haunted?
Crazy. I don't know.
Do you like that? That's the first place I go. I'm like, was she still there?
There's like all these photos throughout the hall that were like all these old cowboys that I knew. They're now old men and they're there. They were there maybe filming like as a guest or whatever, but like photos of them when they were 16 working on the ranch. They're there. And like photos of like Teddy Roosevelt, Eleanor Roosevelt, like getting off private planes there to hunt, the Bush family. Like,
oh, wow.
It was really crazy how historic it was. And then also the woman who was feeding us in the house, like outside of like Crafty and like set, that's her job. She cooks for the cowboys and stuff. And so they get up at like 3 or 4 and we'd be getting up at like 4, you know, sometimes. And I'm sitting there like having breakfast and lunch and dinner sometimes with them, or like on an off day, like I'm having dinner with these cowboys and then they go off and ride off into the distance and do their job.
And boy, cow.
Crazy.
You got to see it from like a real I know it's all fun and like, but I also think that's probably
it was very, very real. And it was like we're also an hour away from a Walmart, hour and a half away from Lubbock. So like it's not even really a town. Like I think the population there is like 247.
Wow.
And there's a high school there. The schools there are literally for the kids of the parents who somehow work with the ranch. Like that is the whole
I even saw that on episodes of Yellowstone where they'd be talking about someone's son going to school and like how they would have to take him an hour to school or something. And I mean, you do think about that stuff when you're in small towns. You're like, man, to get to school, like the school bus can't even come and get you. You live so far out.
Yeah. So they have their own school there, but it's like such a mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's not at all
like
how you were.
I'm like driving and there's what's it called? The windmill? What's it called?
Oh yeah, the power, the windmills, right?
They're windmills.
Yeah.
They're windmills,
and then the gas things that do this.
Yeah.
Yes. Oil rigs.
Oil rigs.
Oh, wait,
no,
not rigs, but oil pumps.
Something. Lots of those, and like that's it. And then you're just like looking off. We'll know what that is later. We'll look that up.
Yeah.
It's not a personality hire thing.
Yeah, it's fine.
We don't know.
That's not what we're trying to get hired doing. But you look out and it's literally just land. And I picture like Twister. Like if a Twister is coming, you're just like, it's coming for you and there's nowhere to go.
No. I think one of the cool things about the shows, though, is like, number one, you're speaking to the fact like it is authentic. Like of course not the storylines and things like that, but like you all really were immersed in it, which is so wild.
Oh, and so much of it's like very real. Like some of the people in Montana, like, I mean, everyone was very nice, but like there's definitely an air of like they don't want people moving there.
Right.
They don't love a lot of people. Some people like that we're there. A lot of people don't because we are like, I mean, housing is more expensive now. Rentals are more expensive because now it's even more of a popular place to go.
Like even Austin, like everybody's so mad at LA.
Yes.
For Austin booming.
But this is like this was kind of like
that's
a bit more of a best kept secret, you know,
Yeah.
and like they want their land, and like people
feels
there are
invasive.
sitting on so much money, and like they live in such a different way. Like it's like they could have so much money in land, but they're living in a really small
Humble way. Yeah.
like really humble way. And like the way that money is spent too, like, you know, in the city it's like, oh, there she has a Dior purse or Louis Vuitton or whatever. Out there it's like, do you know what that horse is? Like, you know, you wouldn't know how much money people have unless you like know the business, or like, do you know, have you seen those Spurs? Like those are $7,000 Spurs.
Right.
Like it's
I'm sure
you have to know about it.
And I'm sure you got like a glimpse into speaking to like the fact of you're like they find value in things that are kind of like outside of what other people in other areas of the country find value in. But you're also like being dropped off to create entertainment in a town whose sole purpose is to like, we have cattle, we ranch, we raise livestock, we have land, and that is what we do here. So much so that the families that live here, like we created an ecosystem around that job, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's also just such a cool part of the role you got to play in this. Was like, this is going to be maybe a little too deep, but I love the fact that you are a woman portraying this like very important job in that ecosystem. Like the job you have on the show in terms of like the service you provide to these people, this being their livelihood, is so rad.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's way cool.
Yeah. Well,
like,
I met
love
like
that.
so many, a lot of the vet techs that work on the Sixes Ranch, and like I got to ask them questions about everything. And actually the house that Jimmy and Emily, their house is one of the vet techs and her husband and their baby's home.
Cool.
Oh my
like,
gosh,
legit.
that's really
so like
cool.
it's all very authentic, but that's always been very important to Taylor, and like he's from Texas, he knows that world. That's why too it's like if they tried to put me in a more expensive pair of jeans, he'd be like, Emily,
no, yeah, it's not grounded.
You know, like that's not what she would wear. No one wears that as a vet tech.
Right. Which
you
everybody,
know, so everything is so that authentic. You know?
And I think like that's one comment that I get from other viewers of that show. Like my dad, hey Groot, he's a big listener of the pod. Hey Dad. One thing that he said was like, he was like, everything why he likes to watch the show is because it feels like a Western kind of, but you're watching it like a modern Western.
Well, I mean, that hasn't happened
like
until Taylor did it. You know what I mean? So it was this new, I mean, I knew nothing about, I feel like it's always been this past cowboy world, you know, old Western thing. I had no idea about like modern ranching, you know, like that's a thing, and that's people's lives.
I mean, the whole reason Westerns were a thing is they're fighting over land, they're fighting over livestock, and like all that stuff.
And that's real.
And that's real. Like it's literally in the show.
Yeah.
And no, that's not a spoiler. Right? You just know.
No, even my friends like in Montana, we stayed, the house that I was in, this little cabin, our friends, their house that owns all the property. So it's the grandfather that owns everything. The daughter, he had called her, this land next door was for sale. And the guy, the house that I'm staying in, sorry, I'm like bouncing everywhere. The house that I was staying in was owned by this one man, okay? He was selling it, and he was like, he told the realtor, I don't want any of my neighbors to buy this. He listed like 6 families, like, do not let them buy this. So Art, I was trying not to use names.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's fine. Art was like, all right, called his daughter and her husband and was like, y'all have a different last name. I'm wiring you this money. Put an offer in. And so
I was about to say,
and I'm like, this is some
like
Yellowstone stuff. Like, this is real life.
Yeah.
And so they call, make an offer. She drives up, the realtor drives into this area with no service, which is very common for there. And the other 13 offers didn't go through because she didn't have service.
Oh, wow.
And so they got the land. So they were joking with me. I'm close with them now. And they were joking like, we should just take a family photo with everyone in front of the house and send it to them with like the family's last name on it, like happy holidays.
Oh my gosh. So
they didn't do that, but funny.
Yeah. Well, you don't know what's going to happen if you do.
Right.
Might be a standoff. I have a question as an actor. When you are on set with a showrunner that is an actor, so Taylor Sheridan is an actor.
Yes.
Turned showrunner, which is so cool. We're seeing so much more of that now, which like that is a dream to work with someone who understands what it's like on the other side, because I feel like you get a little bit closer to crew and all of that. So I feel like, I mean, I don't know for sure, but I feel like sets run in that direction may be a little bit more welcoming or feel better for not only the cast, but the crew, because we're the ones hanging out with them, not big production.
I mean, he's definitely big boss. Like, for sure. But I think, first of all, some of my favorite directors have been actors turned directors, because they have that understanding. So, like, for instance, Taylor would come to me, like, if we had a really emotional scene, and he's like, are you ready right now? Because we can start close up, or if you want to build and save it, we can start further.
I love that question.
You know what I mean?
That is so cool.
That's such an advantage when he was directing, because he knows what it's like on the other side. Because it's like, if you're ready and you're like, ooh, it's happening now, like, let's not waste it in the wide. You got to save it.
But if you need to think on it.
It's so much easier, when it's like, especially just getting that offer, you know, is just like such a relief to have someone that really understands it, and like,
it takes the pressure off a little bit.
Yeah, and he also kind of did that with like some of the like
sexiest scenes.
Yeah, some of those scenes. Like, he had us do those. We shot a bit out of sequence, and he had us do those first, so that it wasn't like you're like thinking about it for too long. Let's just get this part over with, and then we can, you know, dive in otherwise. Which was nice.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, let's get that out.
And how do you feel about those? Like, I've never done, that's such a lie. I've done one simulated, or well, it wasn't even that. It was like, it looked like we were, but you don't even see my face in it. It was like for one of our friends' shorts. And it was supposed to be like a rapping scene. I don't know if we're allowed to say that. Like, we're allowed to say that. It's our podcast. Rape. Oh. Yes. It was portraying sexual assault essay scene. Thank you. And I was fine with it because of the movement, like, felt so not real. Like, it just didn't feel like that. It felt like dance, if anything.
It definitely feels like a choreographed dance. Like, I mean, Jeff and I are buddies, and we'd literally be like, in one of the scenes before, the door's shut and we come like stumbling into the house, right? So we're outside this door, and we were literally like playing like
patty cake.
Yeah, playing like patty cake, and then we're like, all right, here we go again. And then we'd stumble in, and then you were like, okay, we got to hit this. You know, your brain is going, I got to hit this mark, I got to hit this mark, I got to fall over the couch, I got to do this, I got to do this, da-da-da-da-da, and then this happens, and cut. All right, from the top. Yeah. You know, it really feels more like a dance. It's not sexy. Yeah. It's also like, you know, there's like, I don't know, 15, 20 people in the room.
Yeah,
like,
it's not intimate, that's for sure.
It's not. It's just not. But I think, like, it doesn't take a lot, especially for that kind of thing, it doesn't take a lot for the audience to
understand what's
believe
happening.
It. You know?
Yeah, it's part of the story.
Right. Yeah. And also, I feel like Taylor had a good understanding of that. And he even told me once, like, you know, about showing things, because I had my contract pretty tight. It was like, we're going to almost, and then the audience thinks, like, it's like, almost, and cut. Yeah. And then, like, but the audience thinks that, like, they saw a whole thing. And it's like, they didn't, though, because it didn't happen.
It didn't happen,
It's suggested.
Right. And it's like the imagination will go to the next thing already. So, like, you can just give
honestly,
them, like,
you don't need all of that.
No,
like,
and he was like,
we get
it's best to, like, it's sexier to almost give it to them.
Yeah.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I totally see how that would be.
Thank God.
Well, I think too. Like, so you like have had this incredible experience. You just described to us so many different like variations of this experience as well. So now that we know that this is coming to an end, it's coming to a close, I would love to learn more about kind of like, what do you want to do now? Like, what are, like, would you go back to a role that's a little bit more like based in the ranch? Or are you like, I want to go to outer space? Are you like, I want to play,
I have no interest
a mom
in space.
of 20. You know?
I'm not going to the moon. I don't care if it's free.
No,
we're
thanks,
good.
Elon.
We also don't want to see the Titanic.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're
good.
But do you have anything like that you're just kind of like, this is a goal, this is a dream, or anything? Like, how are you feeling about the next step?
I feel like, for one, I mean, considering this is now like a wheelhouse situation, if it was right, and also, like, you know, if there's more to this story, so down to do more. Yeah. You know, love it. We'll continue it. I am looking forward to new as well, you know. I've always really loved period pieces.
Yeah.
Would love to do like some 60s, 70s, like something really like juicy.
That'd be groovy. I told you the other day, your vibes are like so strong for that.
Thank you.
Major vibes for that.
So that's what I'm putting out there right now.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, when a job ends, you kind of get, like, we were talking about this earlier, the lack mentality, but you have these big options kind of in front of you that you don't even know
Right, which
yet.
I haven't had in a long time.
Right.
Like, I've had some auditions, but, like, not a whole lot because my schedule's been so crazy, so it's hard to pin anything down. So now it's like, oh, wow, we can get, like, excited about new things again. And then also, like, I think business-wise, it'd be smart to do something different just to, like, be like, okay, she can do more than
She's not just a vet
you know?
a sexy
So I
vet
think as
cat.
an actor, it's smart to
diversify.
want to have a shift.
But I think
look
like
for that.
some of the things that are being kind of like tossed your way, hypothetically, they're so different. And I feel like they're also so like, we were looking at some stuff the other week.
Yeah, you helped me tape something the other day.
Yeah. And when
Thanks, by the way.
Yeah, of course. No, but when we were doing it, I was like, yeah, this is you. And
it's totally different.
And then the other
Totally
role,
different.
totally different from that. I was like, yeah, this is you.
Yeah, those all three were very, very different.
Yeah. So I think how exciting is that to be able to be like, oh my gosh, I just spent 4 years on this amazing, amazing project. I got to meet all these people who are now family to me because we lived together literally. And I lived in the house and ate eggs with them every morning.
Right.
You have the possibility of eating eggs with someone else in another state or another country
and it's
or another
exciting
world.
to have something new. I think it's the sad part about the acting thing is like, yeah, you're going to get the blues at the end. But, you know, if we wanted something that was super consistent, we probably would have done something else.
Yeah.
You know, if we're being real about it. So it's sad, but it's also like this little time capsule, like this whole world gets to exist in this time, you know, and then that's what makes it so special as well.
No, it does.
But it's also like this was such a phenomenon that I still am trying to wrap my head around. It's like walking into Walmart and there's a whole section of Yellowstone, or like I went to the gas station the other day on the way to see my family and there's like Yellowstone beef jerky. You know, like it's like it's
a brand
I'm like,
now.
what is happening? You know, like this is crazy. Like it's really hard to fully grasp.
Yeah.
So I'm like still processing that and like trying to let that in, but it's been such a journey of like I feel like I'm just now touching the surface of that. And it's been 4 years. You know, I've been like, but I've also, you know, I live in Atlanta. I like live away from all of that when I go home. So my world is like, you know, I'm taking my dog out. I'm hanging out with my chickens and my waiting for my kid at the bus stop. You know, like I just
to that point. So like, what are you like? Give us a little bit of insight of like the things that you do to ground you back home. Like you just said, you have chickens. I know you're into yoga. Like what? Like give us a little bit of an insight of like what you are doing outside of the acting space.
Yeah, I love yoga and Pilates. That's like my favorite. Obviously, like seeing my friends again and making time to socialize and like with my close friends. I love hosting and cooking, which you know.
Yeah, you're a phenomenal cook.
Are we gonna get a
You're
cookbook?
phenomenal.
I heard
we should get a YouTube.
I just was listening to something and I heard something about that.
I mean, I am slowly working on it.
Okay.
Yes.
Slowly. Yeah.
We'd like to buy it.
Hey, it's gonna be great. I have a garden. I love pottery, so I go to this little barn I've got like a membership at.
And you throw?
Yeah.
Cool. Kat, that's awesome.
I love that. Yeah.
That's really cool.
And it's fun. Like I love going by myself. I also like if I just need to like, you know, eject and be really present with something because you have to be really present with that. Also Sophie loves going.
Yeah.
Like loves it.
Sophie's your daughter.
Yes. And she's 10, so she can also kind of do her own thing. Like she needs my help a little bit, but like she does her own thing. She even cleans up, you know, all the things. She's pretty independent there. So that's really nice. And then also like I love bringing friends out there. They have like really cheap drop-ins, which is great. And it's open 24/7. So
wow.
Yeah. So, and no one else goes late at night. So I've like brought a couple friends before to throw and like we brought pizza and wine and like bring a speaker and
way fun.
Yeah. So
cool.
like totally different vibe than me going by myself to zen out. Like we're going to turn on some like jammy, jazzy music.
Yeah.
This is a
pottery
party.
This is pottery party.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So like right now in Atlanta, we can find you hosting. They're going to find you having pottery parties and writing your cookbook.
Yeah.
Dreamy. Dreamy.
So dreamy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say one fun thing about what you have created for yourself in Atlanta is that you have a bunch of friends who are all in different walks of life, which I think is really cool. And how do you feel like that's different than being on a set where everybody's kind of like has the same goal?
I feel like I don't know how different it is. I mean, it's very different, like being on set and then being at home.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's not like when you're on set and you're hanging out with your friends, you're just chatting it up and having a laugh, you know, just like you would any other time. Or like
it's also
when you
work.
clock out, like you're exhausted afterwards. And then like when you do clock out, like no one wants to sit around and talk about work.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I feel like it's the same way. Like I have created, I think, like the friendships that I have, the people I'm surrounded with, like we're all in doing different things. Like, and I've always said, like, if your friend's an accountant, would you sit there and talk about accounting?
Yeah.
Like, no one wants to sit there and talk about their job for too long.
Right.
You know, it's we're just having a drink. Let's just have a laugh. And and like what's going on in your life? Like what's really going on? Right. You know?
Yeah. I feel like you and I have barely ever talked about acting.
Right,
I think the only time we talk about it is when it comes up like, oh, we have an audition.
Will you help me take something?
Or like, oh, I'm getting ready to go to set and this is like what's going down, like that sort of thing.
Right.
But other than that, it's like,
yeah.
Which I think that's great. And I think that people want to know, who's the biggest personality hire on the set of Yellowstone?
Honestly, maybe Gil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why so?
He's always around. I feel like he's always just like hanging.
Yeah.
Like he's always just
he's like there for the vibe.
Yeah. He's there to
cool.
like hang. He's so funny. Yeah. Probably him.
Got it.
Gil.
Yeah.
Wow. You
Welcome
heard it
to the
first.
pod.
I think
heard
so.
it here
Yeah.
Friend of the pod,
That's
Gil.
so funny.
Do you mind me saying that your relationship status? And I mean like it being like she's not married is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. No.
Yes, so that's what I was going to say. You're not married. And I think this is a fun thing to talk about because I like talking about this with Jessi because
let's turn it on Jessi.
No, well, I was going to say for all of us because I could talk on this too. I'm also not married. Jessi is married, but what Jessi always really gives me good advice on is like what type of guys like you can kind of read someone right away, right?
Yes.
And so, I kind of,
I mean, especially at this point, like, I'm 30.
Well, right.
Yeah.
But in your opinion, because in my opinion, I like to date a personality hire, but not one that's more of a personality hire than I am. Does that make sense?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Like you want to be the one
your
that
husband is so funny, but like
Yeah.
if you two walk in a room together, one of y'all is going to decide to be the star. But it's not going to, like, I see a good balance.
I think it just depends on the situation that we're comfortable in. Like, he's comfortable in different
if it's
scenarios.
his,
exactly.
if it's his thing,
his domain versus my domain.
Yeah,
But
totally.
I will say he is equally a personality hire to mine. Like we are,
Yes.
but he shines in different scenarios.
Yes.
Which I
Than
love
do.
that.
guess
Like it's
that's
nice that you
true,
can
yeah.
like share
A
it too, because
balance,
if you're not
yeah.
feeling it, like
Yin and
someone
yang.
that can like also take over, and you're like, today
Yeah.
I'm not feeling it, but I'll come out with you, you know, or something like that. It's nice that they're
Or
not
it's
gonna
like
just
they're
like melt into the
friends.
wall, and it's up to you to like
Absolutely
drive the conversations or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's important
Yeah.
in just friendship too, I feel
Oh,
like. If
totally.
you like, and I think that's what you were just talking about, but like even when you go out with your friend and you're like, I have a hard time like rallying with my friends. I'm like, I need you to rally for me. I
Yeah,
need you to,
like
I need
today,
you to,
like it was hard for me to get out of the house. I'm
Yeah.
gonna need you to be the one
Yeah.
today.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
you can get into it too.
I barely put my makeup on.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
but we're
But
here.
But I think that's awesome though too, because I feel like even when I'm having my days of not feeling like a personality hire and feeling like tired and shrivelly like scammy spinach, I feel like that's when I am the luckiest person to have friends like y'all where I can just show up to a dinner and someone else is going to start
Totally.
talking and I'm like, now I can jump on the train with you because you started the train, like you got it going.
Right.
And now I can chug along.
I
with
will
you.
say, I mean, dating is personality hire for
Absolutely.
sure.
It
I
is,
mean, like,
yeah.
because also, like, if I look at some of the people I've dated, especially like the last couple, could not be more different. Could you agree?
Right.
Could not be more different. And that's why I
We're
kind
not
of wanted to
gonna
ask.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think it's like, I mean, I think that's a conversation that literally anyone who's ever dated can jump onto in just saying like personality hires are a different breed. Like we talked about this with our last guest, and he talked about how he won over his wife, Jerry O'Connell, won over Rebecca Romaine by being a personality hire.
Right. Well, like personality is better than like looks. Looks are great though, but
looks are great.
Well,
but
certain things get you through the door, and then
love
certain things keep you there. So things can get you through the door. You're hot, but you ain't staying around if you don't have a personality. Like if your
or you could be like
sucks,
gorgeous. I used to like back in my early 20s and stuff when I modeled. These guys would be like so gorgeous. It was like talking to a concrete wall. Like there's no attraction there whatsoever. Like there wasn't any bit of attraction there. It was like, ugh. Like, don't speak to me.
Well, even like, I would say like in my last relationship, I didn't think that person wasn't a personality hire, but they just weren't. Now that like I'm in a different situation, I'm like, oh, now you make me laugh.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I wasn't laughing.
My great aunt the other day, I was chatting with her, and she's in a home right now. She's 97.
Yeah.
And she is still like sharp, plays bridge still. And she was like, I went to dinner with this man, and she was like, ugh. Some people, she's like, I just don't like everyone. She was like, so we're talking about socializing in the home. Yeah, and she was like, all these people just want to talk about their wonderful children and their wonderful grandchildren. She was like, boring. Tell me something bad. Tell me something interesting.
Period.
Yeah, and then she goes, so I'm at dinner with this man, and all he can talk about is this wonderful family, on and on. She's like, I don't even think I hardly got any words in. And then she was like, and it got time for dessert, and he wanted dessert, and she goes, I'm going to stop you there.
She's like,
this has been lovely, but I need to get back home. And she goes, because why am I wasting my time with this man when I could be sitting on my couch watching one of my shows with a vodka?
Seriously.
I was floored. I was like, stop.
That's why we don't date just to date.
Tell me the drama that's happening in your family. I don't know. We all have beautiful families.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
They're all
cute.
incredible. We're also, everything's so great. No, tell me the tea.
Yeah.
Tell me what is really going down. Tell me who you don't like. Tell me why. I won't tell them, but tell me why. Tell me
who did the thing at Thanksgiving. Someone did something at Thanksgiving.
Something interesting. Not just like, here's the slideshow of my family, to the point where you don't even get a word in. Like,
and it just goes to show it never stops. You can be 97 years old and you're still dealing with the same stuff.
These men still think they very interesting, but they ain't.
Yeah. And honestly, like, would rather be on my couch with a vodka. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any, like, thoughts for any young women? We like to talk, like, directly to young women sometimes. Do you have any thoughts for young women about just being a personality hire? It can be in your field or in your personal life or whatever that is, and like how to be the best, most authentic personality hire for yourself. Like, do you have any like thoughts, feelings, suggestions, considerations?
I feel like knowing your worth, you know, because I think sometimes when you are a big personality hire, you're going to run into people, friendships or dating wise, that aren't comfortable with your bigness. And so you'll slowly make yourself smaller. And I think, like, that's something that I wish I hadn't done. I'm no longer doing. But that was, like, probably one of the biggest, hardest lessons of my 20s.
Yeah.
And, like, so sad. Like, just watching you become, like, a shell of yourself to make other people more comfortable.
And then kind of how do you feel like you reclaimed your bigness then? Like, do you have anything where you're like, and then I slowly started to like recognize that, and then I moved through that?
I think I've always said getting closer to 30 felt like coming home to myself. Like I felt closer to who I am, but like who I was at 17, just like a wiser version with maybe a little more parameters, you know? Yeah. But feeling like I feel like your 20s are just this like winding, like hitting all these walls and going too far and learning, kind of like how children are, like they flail around because they're literally trying to find the walls, you know? And so it's the same kind of idea. And then you find like your boundaries, like, oh, if I touch that, I'm not going to touch that stove anymore.
It's hot. Yeah.
But then, that other lesson of just like being who you are, and like the people, like there are people who will love you for your bigness, and that's the people that you need to surround yourself with, because you're not also going to be like, your personality is also like the part of you that makes you is the thing that makes you special. And so if you're dimming that, you're dimming those opportunities, you're dimming everything in your
what's
life.
meant for you a lot of times too.
Right.
I think too, personality hires, like you think about it in the business scheme, because I think people see the three of us, for example, and see that we have that sort of quality that's like maybe a little bit more outgoing on some days. Not saying we're always outgoing every single day or extroverted, but like we have the ability to like sit here in like a public forum and speak. That is personality hire, but also being a personality hire and being authentic, like you're speaking to, is like if you're really into, I was joking about this earlier, but like really into Dungeons and Dragons, like that's your bigness.
Right.
Lean into it.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna find your people. You're gonna find people who are like dope or like accept that or are into it too or whatever.
It can be big in the extroverted sense, or it can be big in the sense of like you have a specific interest, or like this is just who you are. But I think it's so important for young women and all women, honestly, all people, just to hear, especially someone has said such success like you have already, hear them say like, I at one point needed to reposition to go like, no, I need to reclaim that big part of who I am and not
such a journey.
Shrink away from it. Yeah. And it's really hard, and it's
really hard to come back. Like
it's brave. It takes a lot of courage.
So scary.
Yeah,
so scary because you're like, oh no, this is gonna make them feel
exactly.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I just have to push through this.
Or like people
and this
call
sucks.
Yeah.
It's not fun to reclaim.
No.
No.
Well,
but it is fun once you've reclaimed.
Once you've
reclaimed
reclaimed
it. Then it's fun again. Then you're like, yeah.
But the thought and idea that you can hurt you can hurt somebody along the way.
Once you get your freaky back.
We're back, baby.
Yeah. No, I think that's really interesting because you're going to keep learning the same lesson over and over until you learn it.
Right.
So I feel like in our 20s, we do, I mean, even like I've had friends later in the 20s where I realized I was like, oh, you don't like, you're saying that this is cringy, but really what you're saying is I'm too big. Like,
right. And then also like, I feel like there are friends, like your deep, close friends. I think a big lesson too is like the people who do love you. I'm not talking about people who mistreat you, but people who do love you, like when they're going through that spiral with that one guy and they keep going back or whatever, it's important to like hold space for that. You don't have to like go through that too, but you know, like the friendships are so much more important, you know, than allowing just like, you're still dealing with that shit, you know, like bye. Like, no, like we're gonna,
if
I
your
don't care
friendship
who
is
you're
valuable,
with,
then
I don't care whatever, like this is what's solid here, you
Yeah.
know, and to keep that, value that.
Yeah.
Definitely. Because also I think that as you get older and you become more like in tune with who you are and who you want to be, hopefully naturally, what I've experienced anyway, is that the people that are meant to be in your life just kind of naturally fall into place.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that like everything that you're saying is just really cool and important for people to hear, because just be who you is, okay?
Yeah,
I feel like that's what we just say all the time. Just be who you are. Just be who you are.
And don't keep trying to find acceptance from people who, you know what I mean?
Yes,
like, don't keep trying. Like, if they're not valuing you, like, there are people who value you.
You got to skedaddle.
You know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You got to skedaddle. If no one is valuing you, or not no one, but if a specific person or group is not valuing you,
dark.
If no one is valuing you, we have a problem.
God does. God
we got
loves
a problem.
Jesus loves you. This is fine.
Do we have any final thoughts?
Should we do some rapper? Whoa,
rapper! You want to rap? I can't do that.
No,
that's not on my resume.
We'll do as our closer today. Before we let Kat boogie on out of here, we're going to do a quick game with you, if that's all right. I think you're going to be into it.
All right, cool.
We're going to do our first ever inaugural game of Hire or Fire. So we're going to give you a few different topics that we've spoken to ad nauseum on this podcast, and you can let us know if they are a personality hire or if you got to let them go. Okay. First one off the dome here. Cruises.
Okay, this is. I would say no. I did just go on an Alaska cruise. But it was my Mimi's 90th.
Okay, well, that's,
Yeah, so like, I love a cruise with my family, and it was a bougie cruise, you know? So, or like a European, like, river cruise.
Okay. So it depends.
But you're not doing a carnival.
No.
Okay.
No, you couldn't. I don't think you could pay me for that.
You just heard it here first.
Yeah.
Okay, second, haunted houses.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh,
my birthday's on Halloween.
Yeah.
Spooky baby. You're
a
spooky baby. Of course. Why don't even ask that?
Yeah.
This you're about to have a birthday.
Well,
she loves,
this is going to come out after.
It is, but we're filming before.
Yeah, so spoiler alert.
Okay.
Yes, spooky.
Another thing we've chatted about here, barrel leg jeans.
I've got like 4 pairs.
Okay.
So hired.
Yeah.
What about poodle skirts?
Nah.
Oh, fired?
Wait, I do have one. Yeah, I have one that's like jean. and it's from Madewell. It's wild. It's so
oh no, we're
cool.
talking about poodle skirts with the poodle on it.
Oh no, this is like the shape of one.
Yes,
Do you know what I mean?
like
Like
an
an
A-line.
A-line.
Yeah,
A-line.
yeah.
No, hell no.
But the shape we're still into.
Fire. No.
Okay. And I just have one more.
Unless you're going to a sock hop with your dad in 5th grade, fire.
You're out of there.
Yeah.
Unless it's a father-daughter dance.
Right, because I did that. That was great.
Okay.
Okay.
No.
Okay, my final one is Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
We love Moana.
So he's hired?
Yeah.
Okay.
You heard it here
Yeah.
first.
Okay, thanks.
Do you smell that? That's what The Rock's cooking.
We're cooking it. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming. It really means a lot to us.
Yes,
And
Thanks for having me.
Please let everybody know where they can find you on the gram.
Oh, at Kat Kelly T.
Follow her.
yeah.
And yes, we are so appreciative of everything that you've spilled out of your noodle today about your career, about what you want to do next, about who you are, and about your words of wisdom for our awesome new hires. And
Yellowstone comes out the
November 10th.
Why do I always say I literally
November 10th.
I texted her so many times and said like, yeah, like it comes out on the 14th.
It doesn't.
Because I've,
November
no,
10th.
it's November 10th.
It's the
Yellowstone
10th.
is coming out on November 10th.
November the 10th.
Much
So-
awaited.
So get your
We're all very
streaming
excited.
services ready.
Prepared.
Yes.
Get your
Yeah.
cowboy hat on, your cowboy boots. Make
Go
sure
to Walmart.
Yeah.
Buy the gear.
Buy the
go to the gas
available.
station.
Buy
Get
the
the
beef
beef
jerky.
Get the jerky.
Get
Get your
the
jerky.
jerky.
Get on your couch
Get your
And push play.
ultrasound
And
device
get
and
your-
get your baby horse.
and
Calf.
invite your friends.
Yes. And
Yes.
while you're doing all that, please rate, review, subscribe. It
And
means
send
so
this
much.
episode to a friend.
Yes, please send to a friend. It means so much to us when you take the time to do these
Yes.
things. And with that, we will see you next Thursday.
Janine, take us home, sis. Ah.